I'm going to cover a couple different things today. I'm going to just talk about straight, like diagonal cuts for improv piecing. I'm going to show you how to do curved piecing, and I'm going to show you just really easy kind of a combination of scraps and piecing that you can add within your strips. So originally, when you sew fabrics together, they're cut even. You have a straight line on the top and the bottom, and when you sew them together, you sew them right sides together, and then when you fold it back, then usually it's straight and your edges line up. So, and that's what we want, right? We want our strips to line up and our fabric to stay in a straight line, so as we add more pieces that our fabric isn't just going all over the place. Originally, when I think of wanting to add diagonal lines to my strips, I think of just cutting a line. So let's just cut our fabric at a diagonal, and I've already cut this one. But the problem is if you only cut one piece, then when you piece it together, your other piece is going to go off at an angle. And one thing that I found with improv piecing is it's like a puzzle. You want your pieces to fit together like puzzle pieces, and if they don't fit straight, then that's however they fit together before you sew them is how they're going to fit together after you've sewn them. So if I sew this together and I sew these seams together, when I fold it back, it's going to come off at an angle, and it's going to be really hard to add more strips along the edges, or to make it longer without having to just cut practically all of that off to square it up and add more. So we are not going to just cut the one pieces, or maybe you think, well, I have to cut both of them at an angle. Well, that's just going to make your angles even tighter. So let me show you. If you just cut both pieces at an angle, so say I want my angle like this, but they're right sides together, then after you cut it, so you sew it together right there, well, now it's even at a worse angle. So I'm going to show you the right way to do it. First we will do straight lines, and there's a couple different tricks and tips that I want to point out that are important no matter what kind of piecing you are doing. First, you need to pay attention to how wide your fabric is. I think it's easier if you have really big squares of fabric, if you're going to be piecing it a lot of times, rather than pre-cutting it into strips, because you can piece two fabrics together, and then as you want to add more, sorry about the camera wiggle, as you want to add more, you can simply cut further out if you want it thicker, or say you just want it really thin, well then you'll be able to move it in and adjust. So rather than, oh well, this piece isn't big enough, now I need to go cut another one, and then you end up not using this one. One thing, so what you're going to do, the whole trick to cutting your two fabrics so that they'll line up, is to stack them on top of each other with both of them right sides up. So it's really important that you know where your edge is, so that you don't cut off the edge and not have enough fabric. So my edge seam, I need to remember, is on this line right here. So, and then I'm going to do a little diagonal, maybe halfway through it. So I'm going to overlap this on top, and then just be careful to keep those edges so that they are straight on the top and the bottom. And then make sure that your fabric is still on that line, that it hasn't moved, so that you cut it in the right spot. So, and then you'll want to take your ruler, and remember that my fabric only goes to right here, so I don't want to place my ruler past that, or I'm going to have a whole section that doesn't have any fabric to sew together. So, and you can do it right to the corners, but you just want to stay within those boundaries, and obviously you don't want to go past this, because then there's that strip, that section right there that won't have fabric to reach. Here is my line that I'm going to cut, and let me just get that back so I can get in here. Oh, let me get a better angle. Okay, so cut your strips. So you will have this section underneath and then this one on top. So you do have some that you're cutting off. You can save those for later. These are a little small, but you know that you can save your scraps and you can use them even if they're smaller. They fit together, so it's like a puzzle piece. So now what you're gonna do is you're gonna fold it over, and you want to line up your edges so they line up your corners. Line up your edges, and notice how this under piece is still going straight, but then this one is diagonal. Well, that's okay, because when you fold it back over, because it's cut the right way, it will go straight again. So we'll fold it over and then I will show you that. But before that, I'm going to show you that the same thing works if you want to do curve piecing. So here are my two fabrics that I'm going to use, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. So here's my line where my bottom fabric is lined up so I can remember where it's covered up, and then I'm going to overlap it. And you can overlap it a lot, you can overlap it a little. It just mostly depends on how big you want how steep you want your diagonals to go, or how curvy, how big you want your curves to be. So we'll kind of do a combination curve on this one. And you don't need your ruler on this one since you're going to do a curvy piece. And remember, just check and remember that not to go past this line right here where that bottom fabric is. I'm going to just cut some curves. And this one, the fabric kind of moves a little bit more, so just maybe hold it on the top and the bottom of where you're cutting it. Okay. Got some good wavy lines there. Take that apart and you can see. So now you have your two pieces, and if you push them together, you can see it's like a puzzle. They fit together really good. And so then sewing this is obviously a little more tricky because you don't just have a straight line, and when you sew them, fold them together, obviously they don't match up. So I will show you that in the next section. Okay, welcome to my sewing machine. We are continuing with improv piecing with diagonal lines and curve lines. So I've already taken those two curve lines that I cut and I just sewed them together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, as you can see, and when I open them up, then look how nice the top and the bottom remain straight. So then I have just a little diagonal, and then here's my other one, just sewing it together with the edges together, the diagonal cut edges, and then when you open it up, and I'll iron those out and show you what they look like in a minute. So, but what I'm going to show you right now is how to sew your curvy pieces together, because this is kind of the tricky part where it's kind of nice to watch. I'm definitely a visual learner. So what you want to do is find your top corner of your curve. It's right here, and there's that one. And then you want to line them up. And you want to try and get about 1 inch that is just a straight line where the two line up. It's a little bit trickier with your curve seams, but you want to make sure that you keep that 1/4 inch seam allowance. And see, my fabric's kind of going all in every crazy direction, but you want your fabric to be going straight into your machine. So what you'll do is you don't want to pull it back and forth, but you want to pull it side to side, or one hand holding the top and one holding the bottom. And as I get closer to the foot, then as my fabric feeds through the machine, I'm going to adjust them so that they continue to stay lined up, and so they continue to have a good 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. So you just kind of keep pulling and adjusting as needed. And see, so I keep pulling this one. This curve is going out this way, So I just keep pulling it back, or pulling it over this way, so it's kind of, see how I can make it go straight into the machine. And so then this one is curving the other way, so I just kind of bring it over so that it's lined up with that bottom one. And then just remember to try and get that 1/4 inch seam allowance. And if you need to pick your foot up, that's fine. Just so you can adjust it a little bit better, make it easier. And then see, now my curves are gonna start coming back this way and that way, so I'm gonna start pulling them the other directions. And yeah, it's a little bit harder to speed through this part. Just line up. But as you practice, you'll get better at it. So I obviously am not a pro at this, but I think it's fun to learn together, so thought I would share with you what I know. And then just turn it so it'll line back up and go straight into the machine, and keep that 1/4 inch seam allowance. And here's some more curve changes. And remember that it's not right here that you're sewing, but you want to have a good setup. I like what's going to go in under the foot, I like to have ready to be sewn together. So you don't want to get it, line up your seams too far away from your needle, because otherwise they might not be ready for your, it might make it off what's right going into your needle at that time, if that makes sense. If anything I say confuses you, just disregard it. So now I'm getting close to the bottom and should be lining up pretty good. So I'm just kind of pull it to just that last little section. And finish off, and there you go. Here is a little curve. You can kind of see the curves. See the edges line up pretty good. I'm gonna iron it and then we'll come back. Okay, so I got ambitious and just ended up sewing it all together. So here's the 2 diagonal strips that I first cut. You can see I sewed them on the diagonal on a 1/4 inch seam, and then when you unfold it and press it, then it comes out straight. And then same with, here's my curved piece. It kind of, sometimes they seem a little bunchy, but then when you just iron them out, then they come pretty straight. And I just iron them over to this side so that and it'll lay pretty flat that way, but especially with the curves, it's a lot easier if you just press them to one side. And then those little pieces that I pointed out, I sewed those together, and I just had that little strip in there. So those were a little narrow, but I don't know, it's kind of can be fun. And then here's that little diagonal piece, and then here's my curve I trimmed down. And okay, just one sec. And yeah, and I just sewed another piece on the bottom and sewed them together. And of course you could make a curved seam here, or diagonal, or even just joining these pieces. You can get fun as you add them all together. And have fun and have a good day. Bye.